Yo guys, what is up? Max in our Borderlands 4 video, and today we're going over my guide to our first ever Grenade Harlowe build. Now, this is a build that I actually attempted to make back when Bloom Reaper first came out with the Graphite Trooper class mod. However, at the time that I tested it, this class mod was basically too bugged to make a build with, and I made a long tweet about how frustrated I was with it. I sent some messages to Gearbox about it because I really wanted to make a build with this. And I found a way. The class mod is still very easy to bug out and break the game with, and in a very bad way. However, we've discovered some things and some tricks to make it so that this class mod works, and when it does work, it's really cool. So I hope you guys enjoy the breakdown. Let's get right into it. This video is sponsored by Repkit and their new wireless gaming mouse, the VT3 Max Gen 2. Now, this mouse is an absolute powerhouse. It has 750 hours of battery life, which is insane. It's also very lightweight, which I was kind of shocked that they were able to get such a lightweight design with such a high battery life. It's 53 grams, and this thing feels great to aim and use in-game because of its 8,000 hertz polling rate and its 30,000 independent XY DPI. If those are foreign words and terms to you, basically it allows you to get great accuracy and feedback in-game and really adjust your sensitivity to however you want to play. Now, with all of these features, its lightweight design, 750-hour battery life, 8K wireless polling, 120 million optical switch, and 30K independent XY DPI, you would think that this mouse might be coming in at a premium price. However, the Repkit VT3 Max Gen 2 comes in at only $60 or $59.99, which makes it an affordable pickup if you're looking to enter the space and really trying to get a great mouse, not only for competitive gaming, but also just to use for everyday use. If you want to pick up the VT3 Max Gen 2, you can do so via the link in the description. I'll also have a pinned comment. And once again, thanks to Repkit for sponsoring this video. So the concept of this build utilizes the new Graphite Trooper class mod. Now, this reads, critical hits with guns partially restore Ordnance cooldown. On Ordnance activation, gain gun damage and action skill damage for a duration. Now, you could use this with like Ordnance guns or like rocket launchers. However, where I thought was really interesting with the synergies that you have with the guns, mainly because while you're shooting your guns, you can get cooldown and then get cooldown for your grenades, and then you can throw grenades. Now, the real kicker with this class mod is that it reads your critical hits with guns restore Ordnance cooldown. Now, Harlowe is one of the only characters in the game that with a combination of Nuclear Winter plus Group Study and Excited State, you can make all of the damage that you deal guaranteed crits, which means you can do anything and you will be getting tons of crits for ridiculous cooldown. This synergy allows Harlowe to actually be the best grenade character in the game in terms of how fast she can deploy grenades. So I thought it'd be really funny to go even super beyond that and just go wacky with it and use a Katagawa's Revenge. Now, the Katagawa's Revenge, if you didn't know, we used to use on Harlowe because of its high proc rate, and the Katagawas can still allow us to throw. If you look at my grenade cooldown, when we're shooting it at the same time, it can still allow us to throw an insane amount of grenades. Like, look at my grenade cooldown. I could just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep throwing, keep going. Now, this seems to work against test dummies. I'm gonna turn down the volume a little bit so you can hear me. This seems to work against test dummies, and that's really cool. However, on actual enemies, the issue that I was having was this would constantly break my game, and I think it was because there's too many calculations going on at once. Maybe the Katagawa's was triggering cooldown too quickly or whatnot. But basically, I'm not actually using that interaction in this build because anytime I do, all the enemies stop registering damage. Everything bugs out. My action skill stops working. My grenades stop working. And I was trying it with some other weapons with like really high fire rate stuff, and that was also bugging it out. And so I've kind of found a balance of like not going too crazy with this, but still having it crazy enough that we can constantly throw grenades. And the grenades of our choice that we're going to be using are the fire pot for single target damage, mainly because it can stack up stickies the same way that you can sticky stack with like normal guns. You can sticky stack with the fire pot. It does ridiculous damage. And then for like mobbing, we can use like a waterfall, for example, with big AoE to like help with all of our like mobbing concerns. And mobbing with this is crazy. If you've ever played Rafageddon, it's basically the same concept. Here, let's do this. Pop that. Shoot these guys. And then we can start throwing our grenades. And you just need to keep shooting your Katagawas while you're throwing your grenades, and you get infinite grenade cooldown. So that is the concept of the build. Now let's go over everything else that you need to know. So let's go over our skill tree first. Now, Harlowe doesn't have a lot of specific grenade damage boosts. However, she does have gun damage boosts, and one thing to note is the fire pot, although it is ordnance, does benefit from gun damage increases, so we can pick up some of those things to make our ordnance or hit harder, particularly on bossing. So our skill tree is basically Infinite-Crit. We're picking up momentum for some extra crit damage. Remember, our grenades will be critting. Neutron Decay is going to be giving us a bunch of extra gun damage, which our grenades can benefit from. Confirmative Reality for some extra cooldown. Creative Overflow for some even more gun damage. We are going down the right side for Excited State for the guaranteed crits. A little bit of survivability from Accretion plus Distribution Function. And then Group Study so that we can get that stacking gun damage, fire rate. I'm not stacking my Halo up very much on this build. Usually only clicking it like once or twice. And that's mainly because we're already pressing so many buttons with throwing our grenades and shooting our gun. Don't really have time to do any of that. Nuclear Winter gives us the bonus damage and also the action skill tag on all of our damage, which allows us to benefit from Infinite-Crit on all of our damage instances. I went down. There's not like a ton of great points to spend here, but one of the things that we need to do for bossing is we need to not reload, depending on how tanky the boss is. The more stickies you stack on a boss with the Atomic Fire Pot, the more damage it's going to do. And if you have to constantly reload on this build, you're not going to do any damage. You need to basically be able to build up all of these and then detonate them all at once. And the fire pot detonates when you reload. So what we can do is use critical funding, which whenever we crit, we get ammo back and we're guaranteed critting. This allows us to infinitely fire our guns. So you can just infinitely fire while throwing your grenades. I put Meltdown. There's not, once again, really too many great points to put here, but Meltdown gives us some extra bonus radiation damage with our critical hits with guns. From my testing, this does not work for the fire pot, as it specifies with guns. However, still just good point, and our guns, when we're shooting at enemies, just do a bunch of extra bonus radiation damage, which is pretty nice. Decoherence gives us a huge multiplier to all of the damage that we're doing to entangled enemies, which will constantly be entangling. And then Feedback Loop is going to give us our action skill damage and mainly cooldown and duration. This just helps with upkeep of your Halo. We don't have a way to like keep up Halo infinitely on this setup, as we're not doing much cryo damage, and we also don't have anything for sustained and control group, so your action skill will go down. It's not really a big deal because you just shoot or throw grenades. You'll get Confirmative Reality, and you'll get your action skill right back. But that is kind of the premise. We're just chucking grenades on basically Infinite-Crit and having infinite grenades to throw at enemies. For our gear, these are not weapons that I'm using. These are all weapons that I tested that I consistently bugged out the game and made it stop working. That is the Dark Beast, the Katagawas, and the Hellwalker. I was trying multi-pellet weapons because I figured that would be good with the Trooper. With our critical hits, we get tons of crits, and then we get tons of cooldown. And that does work, but once again, it bugged out the game. Katagawa's bugged out the game. The Dark Beast with its extra projectiles and firing really quickly in big bursts, that was bugging out the game. There's probably a bunch of other guns, but I think you just go for like a Vladov SMG or Vladov assault rifle. I've got the Lucian's flank with a alt fire for the extra barrel, firing this a single projectile weapon with decent fire rate that isn't doing anything crazy, not doing any shenanigans. I think is what you're looking for to make this not bug, and I'm not totally sure if it's like more on my side and you guys are going to be able to use the Katagawas, and it worked just fine for you. But on my end, this is one of the only guns that I've been able to not bug out this class mod and actually have the game run and play. And so that's the main weapon I'm using. It could be like a Whiskey Foxtrot. I'd imagine the Rowan's Charge would be fine. Just look for a decent fire rate of Vladoff weapon, and I think you'll be fine. For our rep kit, we were rocking the Shiny War Paint. This gives us a bunch of extra damage and fire rate. The grenade is the fire pot. I'd recommend looking for nuke. We don't really care about the cooldown. This just gives it a bunch of extra damage and radius, which is really nice. Once again, we bypass all cooldown by firing. The trooper, I've just got some damage dealt. I don't know the full suite of roles that this could have, but once again, our grenades aren't really benefiting from Meltdown, so me having like 5 points into this, I wouldn't really worry about. It's not really benefiting the build too much. Just mainly look for like a damage dealt, or elemental damage would also be pretty good as a second substat on that. For our energy shield, I had a Watts for dinner with Siphon and Amp. Amp doesn't really do anything for us. I would just look for Siphon so that you can constantly get the extra overshield and the bonus shock damage. And then I had on a Mixologist with some mag size, splash damage, and status effect damage. I wasn't using Maliwan weapons, so we weren't benefiting from this. But note that the fire pot actually does benefit from the Mixologist like synergy with beam tosser Maliwan shotgun. So like if there's a world where you could like swap to a beam tosser Maliwan shotgun, or like do a bunch of grenades, swap to like a beam tosser, and then detonate them. I just didn't really find it to be totally worth, because we're already doing so much damage just stacking fire pots. But that is an interaction that you could take advantage of. For our specializations, I grabbed Full Spectrum Arsenal for our Ordnance, benefiting from our gun damage, Fragmentation for extra crit chance and more so the crit damage. I was using Riddle You This because we are constantly shooting, and this feeds into our fire pod damage, but also our Full Spectrum Arsenal. And then now with Caffeine as just a way to, if we do go without our action skill, there's nothing to shoot at, we can just rep kit and get it back, which is pretty nice. If you're just like really focusing on bossing, you can swap this point over to the best defense to maximize your DPS. For our firmware, we're rocking 2 Gadget Ahoy, which gives us Ordnance damage, and then we're doing 2 Airstrike, which gives us splash damage, and then 1 Get Throwing, which gives us 35% Ordnance damage. This is kind of a way to just maximize the amount of damage that we're getting from our grenades. The rolls on your grenades and like what you're using on this build, you can kind of throw anything in. I would particularly recommend looking for grenades with the nuke part, though, simply because nuke is going to give it a ton more damage, a ton more radius, and the big downside of wearing a nuke part grenade, the cooldown, we completely bypass just by shooting. So your grenades are just going to be popping off way more if you have this. Definitely not necessary, but I do think that's kind of like, if you're looking for what role to look for on your grenades, nuke is going to be one of the bigger ones, simply because you just bypass any negative downsides of it. Guys, this is going to do it for the build guide. I hope you enjoyed. I will catch y'all in the next one. Take care. Peace.